We have been discussing chapter 3. Chapter 3 is titled Karma Yoga. So Krishna discusses the aspects of working without fruitive attachment, because Arjuna was unclear after the end of second chapter whether he should be engaged in fight or should he give up the fight and leave this world to go to forest. So that was the question Arjuna had at the end of second chapter after um, the conversation. So Krishna, in the beginning of this chapter, he clarifies, for you, Arjuna, Karma Yoga is the most preferred. If you are not qualified for Karma Yoga means, as we discussed before, working without attachment. You do your work, but there is no attachment in the work. Okay, so that is Karma Yoga. And if you cannot do without attachment to the work and the fruits of the work, you rather perform Karma Kanda. Karma Kanda means you work, you work within the legitimate precincts of duty, but you are still attached to the work, attached to the fruits of the work. That's what Krishna suggests Arjuna. So basically, in Vedic system, everything is um, in a very systematic way, in a progressive way. If you are, suppose it's like, when you enter an education system, you would start from first grade and then go to second grade, then third grade. As you qualify yourself to be with better knowledge, you would get ahead with your education. So similarly, in the Vedic canon of wisdom, it caters to all levels of people. If somebody is very materialistically attached, for him karmakanda is recommended. Karmakanda means you perform various pujas and everything for specific benefit. For example, you worship Durga for certain purpose, for certain benefit. Um, you worship Lord Shiva for certain benefit. You worship Ganesh for certain benefit. You get a good wife or get money. All these are called karma kandas. So if you are not qualified to perform karma yoga, perform karma kanda, because all these pujas are within the Vedic precincts, within the Vedic radar. So as you perform over a period of time, you would realize what is the ultimate goal of life, and so you continue doing karma kanda. At one point, you would realize the real purpose of life, and come advance to karma yoga level, just like a student advances to graduate school. So similarly, as one advances in his understanding, one would get ahead to karma yoga. Um, And then Krishna says, even if you are qualified for Gnana Yoga means where one does not perform work, right? Uh, where, um, because in Gnana Marg, people, the method of self realization is uh, they do not perform any work, and basically they would see what is permanent versus what is temporary. That is the uh, that is the methodology they just follow all the time. So looking for the ultimate truth, right? So if you are a jnana yogi also, it's better to perform karma yoga, because you can, if you are qualified for jnana yoga, still if you perform karma yoga, you can set a good example for the world. Yeah. So and Arjuna asks, does karma yoga lead to liberation? Krishna says yes, karma yoga would lead to liberation. um, so that's where we are. We discussed the first section of 10 verses, which discuss how karma yoga is actually better than jnana yoga. Krishna himself clarifies, because why it is better. because we all have this body and senses, it's easy to be engaged in work than to deny work. Jnana yoga means denial of work. You don't perform work. So it's easy for people in embodied state. Embodied state means we all have this body, physical body. So this is an embodiment. So as long as you have this embodiment, it is preferred for you to perform karma yoga than jnana yoga, because it's easy to engage senses. And when you engage senses without attachment to the fruits, that becomes karma yoga. It's a minor variation in the consciousness. Even if you are qualified for jnana yoga, still practice karma yoga. That is the third section. And then Krishna clarifies the difference between karma yoga and karma kanda. Now we are in this section 38 to 35. How karma yoga elevates. So we'll read this section. How one can perform karma yoga in this world. Let's read verse 30. Mayi sarvani karmani sannyasyaadhyatma chetasa nirasir nirmamo bhutva yudhyasya vigata jvaraha. Four, so there are four powerful statements in this. This is a very important verse in Bhagavad Gita. If we understand this one verse, really you can get so much. Let's try to read the translation. Can Archana Mataji, can you read?
Yeah, sure, Prabhuji. Therefore, O Arjuna, surrendering all your works unto me with full knowledge of me, without desires for profit, with no claims to proprietorship, and free from lethargy, fight.
Hmm. So Krishna, there are four lines here. Yudhyas, Yudhyasya Vigata Jvara, the 30th verse D. Let's call this D, C, B, and A. So in the line D, Yudhyasya Vigata Jvara, fight without being lethargic. In this world, people are generally influenced by mode of ignorance, mode of passion, mode of goodness. And one crosses that, he would achieve transcendence. Now, what do you mean by influenced by the modes? Generally, people ask, we all understand that there are, Bhagavad Gita talks very well about these three modes of material nature. What does it mean? And how a jiva gets influenced? For example, if suppose there is, there is a new fashion that just came, that where people have a new haircut, immediately a certain percentage of people are attracted to it, to the new fad. A new mobile came, certain people are attracted. So material nature provides this kind of situations, and based on the mode we are in, mode primarily we are influenced by, we get attracted to it. For example, somebody is a drunkard. As soon as he sees a bottle, immediately there is some kind of a emotion that develops within him. So he is primarily influenced by the mode of ignorance. So when there is a sense object um, that is in that is an object of mode of ignorance, a person in the mode of ignorance gets attracted to it. That's how modes influence us. So the world is, is perceived very differently by everybody. Um, for example, I may see a bottle of wine, I have no reaction. I'm completely detached from it. I may have, I may not even look at it again. For somebody else, it is the most attractive object, right? So a person in the mode of ignorance is influenced by the objects that give happiness in mode of ignorance. Is that clear to everyone? So a person in the mode of passion is influenced by the objects that provide passionate gratification. Somebody um, is attracted to say cricket, or there is certain passion, or football, or we take anything where there is a lot of drive and passion, or he's influenced by certain goals, like I have to become this, that, certain material desires. So that is mode of passion. If as soon as he hears, he is immediately influenced by it. You see, that's how modes when we say modes influence us, means when certain sense objects come into our perception, which are objects of a specific mode, that incites us to be attracted to it. That's how modes influence us. A liberated person is one who is above the influence of all the three modes. So we discussed about mode of ignorance. A person in the mode of passion will be attracted to passionate desires and passionate goals. A person in the mode of goodness is attracted by desires which are in the mode of goodness. Now, somebody likes to wake up in the morning, he reads something about it. That's mode of goodness. And a person who is transcendental, he is unaffected by any of this. He is beyond all of this. He is completely spiritual. That is the highest level one can get to. Now coming to the context of this verse, when Krishna says Yudhyasya Vigata Jwaraha, means this is calling out for the aspect of mode of ignorance. Vigata Jwaraha. Vigata means people are in general lethargic to do certain actions. If you are such a person, give up such lethargy and fight. Right? That's what is Krishna saying here. Nirasir nirmamo bhutva. This is the third line. See, generally people in this world desire or hate certain things, and they desire for certain profit, right? Nirasir nirmamo bhutva means without desire for profit and without ownership, right? Without desire for profit and without ownership means just as an instrument in this universe, right? We should work like an instrument in this universe without thinking that this is mine and I do this only for my profit, right? And I own this. That kind of ownership mentality should not be there. So this is referring to the mode of passion. A passionate person has this strong attitude of desire for profit and ownership, right? So this is addressing the don't be in the mode of ignorance, don't be in the mode of passion. Sanyasasya sanyasadhyatma chetasa. This line, sannyasa means giving up completely with full knowledge of the self, by consciousness, which means basically in the mode of goodness. In the mode of goodness, mm, one should, where one has the knowledge of the self. So mode of goodness is the platform to get to the spiritual platform or transcendental platform. And ultimately, Mayi Sarvani Karmani is unto me all sorts of activities. You should offer all sorts of activities unto me. Surrender all your works unto me. This is the ultimate Karma Yoga. Or it's actually taking Karma Yoga to one level up. This is actually Bhakti Yoga. Where Karma Yoga is actually just, it stops with one giving up attachment to the work. But this is going one level, one step ahead, and understanding that there is actually a Supreme Lord, and He is the ultimate proprietor, creator, uh, controller of everything. So instead of me enjoying the fruits, just like an assistant in a hotel, ultimately whatever he does, all the money he gets, he's going to give it to the owner. So similarly, when we have that understanding, God is the supreme controller, supreme proprietor, supremely powerful, supremely supreme enjoyer. When we understand that, we surrender the results of all work to Him, then that is the best way of working. That is the best karma yoga. When you bring God into picture, that becomes bhakti yoga. When karma yoga need not be performed with understanding of God, uh, because karma yoga says give up your attachment to the fruits. But where should the fruits? Where if I am not, if I am a worker in the hotel and I am doing the service for my master, for my proprietor, I know that I am not the enjoyer. That's where karma yoga stops. But ultimately, if I know that actually this all the effort I do belongs to the proprietor, and I have that in my mind, I'm working here, and as long as I satisfy the proprietor, I'm situated well in my job, and that is the right way, right attitude for me. So when we understand that, then our karma yoga becomes perfect, right? So this verse is actually calling out the same thing. Oh Arjuna, surrender all your works unto me. Who is me? Krishna. With full knowledge of me, without desire, with full knowledge of me. What is that knowledge? The knowledge that Krishna is the proprietor, Krishna is the controller, Krishna is the creator of everything. Um, when we understand that, and without desire for profit, no claims for proprietorship, free from lethargy and fight. Don't be in the mode of ignorance. Don't be in the mode of passion. Don't stick out in the mode of goodness also. Instead, do everything as an offering to me. In that consciousness, if you do, Krishna will explain what is the result if you perform your work in that consciousness. We'll come back. Yeah, let's quickly read this purport. This is very uh, important verse in Bhagavad Gita. If you can achieve this state, you have achieved perfection. So the purport says, this verse clearly indicates the purpose of Bhagavad Gita. The Lord instructs that one has to become fully Krishna conscious to discharge duties, as if in military discipline. Right? This last line says, right, free from lethargy. In military, how people work, right? They have strict regimen. Everybody wakes up at morning 4:35, and they are ready for morning drill by certain time, and they eat in a regulated way. They practice the fight every single day. They don't miss it. That is military discipline. So if we have such consciousness in the performance of our work, means everything we do, understand that ultimately Krishnarpanam means, that's why even if you perform any pujas at your home, hmm, at the end, whether it is Sachina Vrata or Vinayak Vrata or any puja, Krishna says, not Krishna says, in the Vrata, towards the end it says, Sarvam Krishnarpanam, right? Why such a statement is there in every puja? The reason is ultimately everything is done for the satisfaction of God, right? And because Krishna is considered Purna Avatar, complete incarnation of God, so we offer specific to Krishna. Every That's why you see that happen in every puja we do. Such a injunction may make things a little difficult. Nevertheless, duties must be carried out with dependence on Krishna, because that is the constitutional position of the living entity. So that is the position of living entity. Just like, uh, uh, so that is the constitutional position, is that is the situation of the jiva, right? We are. We cannot deny that we are related to God. We are in relation to God. When we understand that and we act in harmony with that relationship, then we will be totally satisfied, right? That's why Krishna, Prabhupada is writing that. The living entity cannot be happy independent of the cooperation of the Supreme Lord, because the eternal constitutional position of the living entity is to become subordinate to the desire of God. Arjuna was therefore ordered by Krishna to fight as if Lord were his military commander. Yeah, so like that. Let's read. Yeah, yeah. Let's read this one. Yeah, Nirasir. Nirasir means that one has to act on the order of the master, but should not expect fruitive results. The cashier may count millions of dollars for his employer, but he does not claim a cent for himself. Similarly, one has to realize that nothing in the world belongs to any individual person, but that everything belongs to the Supreme Lord. There is a beautiful verse in Isha Upanishad where it says, Isha Vasham Idam Sarvam, everything in this world belongs to God. So you only enjoy um, what is given to you legally. Do not encroach upon others' property. Hmm? Uh, and when we have such social, it's also kind of communism where uh, God is the center. Right? It's like communist philosophy. In communist philosophy, they say government is the owner of everything. In spirituality, it is the God who is the proprietor of everything. Similar philosophy, that is actually a perverted version of actual spiritual communism. Whatever the communists in China and other countries they follow, that is a perfected version of original spiritual communism proposed in our scriptures. That's why it doesn't work. Government cannot be the center because there will be always people who exploit others. When God becomes the center of everything, that is perfect communism. Everybody understands they are not the proprietor, they are just a part and parcel of God. And when we do with this understanding, there is no envy. Society is much more better organized, right? So the in the in the Vedic times, this is how society was divided, right? Varnas and ashramas. But ultimately, everybody understands the goal of life is to achieve liberation very clearly. Nobody has any question about it. And all these varnas and all the ashramas, they are organized such that everybody can easily achieve this liberation. Mm. So the Vedic system was the perfect way of organizing society to achieve the ultimate goal of life. It's unlike capitalism or socialism. These are also ways to organize society, right? The government here is capitalistic. In China, it is communist. Uh, but these are all, very unstable way of organizing people. Previously, we had a much stabler way of organizing that was run for thousands and thousands of years in the Vedic society. It where people are organized by one's varna and ashrama based on one's psychophysical nature. One is engaged in a certain duties, right? That was the ideal way of organizing society. Um, that's the real purport of my or unto me. And when one acts in such Krishna consciousness, certainly he does not claim proprietorship over anything. This consciousness is called nirmama, or nothing is mine. And if there is any reluctance to execute such a stern order, which is without consideration of so called kinsmen in the bodily relationship, that reluctance should be thrown off. In this way, one may become vigata jvara, or without feverish mentality or lethargy. Everyone, according to his quality and position, has a particular type of work to discharge, and all such duties may be discharged in Krishna consciousness, as described above. That will lead one to the path of liberation. So, what is the lesson for us? When we perform work, understand We are not the enjoyer of the fruits. It doesn't mean that we don't give third class attention to the duty. We, like a cashier, he should be extremely attentive to every note he counts, right? Even though he does not, it's not his money, his duty has to be performed without any lethargy. Yeah, oh, this is not my money, this is bank's money, who cares? If he does his duties neglectfully, then he will be actually, he'll be in trouble, and he can be, um, he can be punished for the mistakes he does. Even though he is working on behalf of bank, he should not be lethargic. He should give his 100%. So understand that now we are, we have a, we have a higher order wisdom from Bhagavad Gita. Now with this wisdom, we are trying to see how we should work. So with this wisdom that we are actually related to God, we have a relationship between us and God, eternal relationship, and He is the ultimate proprietor. He is the ultimate controller, and all that I do is just like an instrument, being an instrument in the hands of God. So when we have such understanding, our work becomes perfect, right? So that's what this verse is talking about. Now let's move on to the next verse. Eme matam idam nityam anutishtanti manava shraddhavanto na anusuyanto muchyante tepi karma bhi. Now can anybody read? Anybody who wants to read? Jyoti Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji. I'll, uh, those persons who execute their duties according to my injunctions and who follow this teaching faithfully without envy become free from the bondage of fruitive actions.
Hmm. Now Krishna gave his ultimate instruction here in the previous verse. Surrender all your works unto me, because I am the proprietor of everything. It is not like a, you know, like a aristocratic king who is, ordering his people to completely, obey them. It's not like that. It is actually the order of things. And if we don't act in that spirit, we are the one who are going to lose. So that's why Krishna is so stern about his instruction here. Now he is saying the benefit of working in that consciousness. Those persons who execute their duties to my injunctions and who follow this teaching faithfully means uh, we have complete faith in the instruction of Krishna without envy. Because we think, oh, why Krishna is asking like that? Who is he to ask us? People can think like that. So that's why he's putting this word without envy. The jiva exists in this world because of envy of God. Understand this one fact. We are all here because we had some kind of envy in our heart. Otherwise, we won't exist in this world. No way. So our root problem is this, envy. Now become free from. So if you act like that without envying God, accepting God as the supreme proprietor of everything, and follow His teaching faithfully, then you are completely freed from the bonds of fruitive actions. Meaning, whatever actions we perform, understand that, that's why one easy way to bring our consciousness to this level is before you perform any work. Say you're about to start cooking. May I work for the satisfaction of God. If you just think in your mind like that, before starting your office work in the morning, or before teaching your students in the class, whoever, whatever occupation yours may be, just think for 1 second that may I do this for the satisfaction of God, not for my egoistic satisfaction. Once for, if you get that one thought, that is a wonderful seed of thought that is going to get you to this level of consciousness one day. right? So that's the practical lesson we can all take. Before cooking, before eating, before sleeping also. I know my friends who do that. Before doing everything, they say, for the pleasure of Krishna, I want to chant. Everything for the pleasure of Krishna, I'm eating. Everything, because even this body is what? His body is also like a temple of God, right? Because there is Paramatma within the heart. There is Paramatma within the everybody's heart. So when we see with that attitude, we see that every body is a temple of God. That is a very, wonderful consciousness. When you act like that, when you live in, when you move around in this world like that, that is pure spiritual consciousness, right? And when you eat also, you are very careful because you're conscious eater. You see what I mean? You're eating so that you maintain your body nicely so that you can serve God in whatever way it's possible, right? So that is spiritualizing every aspect of your life. You eat, you do that. You take bath, same. Everything you do, you have in the back of mind, I'm doing this for my God, for the Supreme Lord, right? So that is the highest spiritual consciousness one can get. It's not, it's not very easy. It's not very natural for us. But if we start practicing that slowly and slowly, one day we can get to that level of consciousness. So that is the practical instruction from this verse, right? So how do we follow this? Just remember God in every work you do. If you can't remember, at least chant Hare Krishna, few times. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, and start your work. Before eating, you can do. Easiest thing is before eating and before working. In the morning, at least once, do this. Just slowly we'll get to a state where we can remember more naturally, right? Any questions on this so far? Anybody? I hope it is easy for you to understand, right? The injunction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the essence of all Vedic wisdom and therefore is eternally true without exception. As the Vedas are eternal, so this truth of Krishna consciousness is also eternal. One should have firm faith in this injunction without envying Lord. There are many philosophers who write comments on the Bhagavad Gita but have no faith in Krishna. In fact, there are about 700 versions of Bhagavad Gita available in the world right now at any point. But most of them are actually not the true authentic versions of Bhagavad Gita because author has projected their own ideas in the book that they translated. But this version of Gita is very different because this version is coming in the line of teachers who are in a parampara coming from Lord Krishna himself. So if you trace out the history of teachers, you will go back from the current teacher who wrote this to his teacher, to his teacher, to his teacher. If you go back, there is direct connection to Krishna, which means it is coming as it is without any change in the intent, right? So this is the original intent. It's as good as you directly hear from Krishna. If you are hearing from this book or reading from this book, it's as potent as directly receiving the instruction from Krishna directly. Yeah, so here it says, in the beginning of Krishna consciousness, one may not fully discharge the injunctions of the Lord. But because one is not resentful of this principle and works sincerely without consideration of defeat and hopelessness, he will surely be promoted to the stage of pure consciousness, pure Krishna consciousness. So if we may not have it, this kind of consciousness at this point, at one point we'll, as long as we don't feel resentful of the instructions of Krishna, we will one day achieve this. एत्व एताद् अभ्यासुयान्तो नानुतिष्ठन्ति मे मतम् सर्वज्ञानाविमूढांस्तान् विद्धि नष्टान् अचेतसाः. Can anyone read this?
I can read, Prabhuji.
Yeah, please.
Okay. But those who, out of envy, disregard these teachings and do not follow them regularly are to be considered bereft of all knowledge, befooled, and ruined in their endeavors for perfection. Hare Krishna.
This is so powerful, right? So if you follow this, this is the result. If you follow this, this is the instruction he gave. Surrender all your work unto me with full knowledge of me. That who is Krishna? Understand that? Without desire for profit, with no claims for proprietorship. You are not the proprietor. I am the proprietor, Krishna is saying. And free from lethargy, fight. Because you are not proprietor, don't become lethargic. Oh, who cares? No. Fight with full energy. And if you follow it, this is the result. You will be freed from bondage. Krishna directly benedicting is blessing anybody who follows in that spirit, who executes his duties in that spirit. You are bestowed the freedom from the bondage of fruitive reactions. So you are going to be liberated at the end of this life. But if you don't follow, out of envy, oh, think, who is Krishna? He is like another person, historical person. He is like me. The history was modified. They added all these things later on. There are so many people with so many opinions who are out of envy. Because they don't follow any parampara. They don't have any authentic source. They read from here and there. They make up their own mind according to what they think is, if I'm not powerful to lift Govardhan, why should Krishna? That must be imaginary, right? So people of all sorts of thinking are there. So Krishna is clearly clarifying here. Out of envy, if you disregard my teachings, do not follow them regularly, then you will be considered bereft of all knowledge. Whatever knowledge you have, that's not real knowledge. That you have completely, you'll be completely befooled and ruined in all the endeavors for perfection. If you try to perfect yourself without this understanding, means you do not, you're saying that I'm on a spiritual path, but you don't know that there is a supreme proprietor God that exists, and I have a harmonious relationship with him, and I work in that understanding that God is the supreme proprietor, I am not the proprietor. If you don't have that understanding, all your so-called endeavors for perfecting your life are completely ruined. You are not going to achieve any perfection. Very strong instruction, right? So one may wonder, what about in Christianity and other Muslim, or there are so many other religions all over the world, but these are two are very prominent. They don't they do not understand Krishna. Um, they right, we all know, but within their scriptures there is understanding of God. So just the name is different. Just like a rose is called in one country with one name, in another country with another name, in another language in another name, the same God is called differently by different people. The same God. So we do not see any discrepancy in other religions, but every true religion teaches the same principle. You know, in Christianity, it says the same thing. With all your heart, love God. That's what surrender. And in Islam also, they say surrender your life to God. Uh, uh, repeat everything exists in your holy name. That's what in Islam they say. Um, That's what we say also in His holy name. We repeat His holy name repeatedly. The same idea. So, all true religions of the world teach the same principle, right? Surrender to God, um, love God, and with that understanding, if you perform your work, then you achieve perfection. Right now, all of us may not have any love for God. We may not remember God, but as we read more, as we hear more, as we chant more, we'll slowly get to that level, right? Because we have love for, our heart is filled with so many other things of this world right now. We want, certain things, certain experiences we have, which are predominant in our heart right now. But over a period of time, as we get purified, slowly we will be able to fill our heart with Lord, right? Lord Krishna. And then will all this become natural. Just like all of us love our children, right? As soon as you see, for example, uh, your child's shoes when they were very young, when they're like 1 year or 2 years, or a picture when they're like 1 year or 2 years, we'll be so thrilled. But we don't have same love for God. Ultimately, He is our, He is the ultimate lovable object for all of us. Unfortunately, we don't have that love right now. But as we advance spiritually, that's what happens. Um, so, any small uh, any small impetus related to God comes, we will be immediately ecstatic. So that is pure spiritual consciousness. We are not there yet. So just like any memory of your child uh, brings such, your heart will be filled with so much love. Similarly, at one point we'll all get to that state where, as soon as we hear the name of Krishna, our heart is filled with so many of wonderful remembrances of God. So that is pure Krishna consciousness. We are not there yet. We are getting there. So that requires a lot of purification of heart. So a lot of envy, greed, false prestige, all of these things have to go away from our heart to make place for God, right? Krishna. So right now we're not there. We'll get there as we make progress. So that is called ecstasy. Ecstasy is not a Ethiopian idea. Where you are 100% God conscious, that is ecstatic state of consciousness that you can always live. And in that state of consciousness, you know, nothing material would affect you, right? It's called samadhi. We'll all be able to get to that state of samadhi, right? In bhakti, it is the remembrance of Lord, right? As there is punishment for disobedience to the order of the supreme executive head, so there is certain punishment for disobedience to the order of supreme personality of Godhead. A disobedient person, however great he may be, is ignorant of his own self, of the supreme Brahman, Paramatma, and personality of Godhead due to vacant heart. Therefore, there is no hope for of perfection of life for him. What is the use if you become like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, where you have so much money, but you have no knowledge of God? It's complete waste of human life. You may wonder they are the most fortunate, but unfortunately they are not actually. That's the true fact, right? So based on this, what do you understand? If you have any other things, that the world really um, gets astonished about, or world worships, but you don't have God in your life, what is the use? There is, you're going to, what happens with that? You're going to come back to this world again, and maybe in the next life you may not be, you may become a sweeper. Elon Musk could become a sweeper in some, Tesla car factory next life. Possible. That's quite a possibility, right? Or some bug if he has done a lot of sins in this life. So what is the use? You become the richest person, and when you die, you don't take anything, and you come back because you are so attached to your, your work. You come back as a sweeper in that same shop, or or a, what is the use, right? All that he earned, while it can be enjoyed for say 1,000 years, but human body is so fragile, it can only enjoy for say 20, 30 years more. He's already say 50 years, so he may have like 24, 25, 30 more years. So that's all. Human life is done, and he's back to zero. Any progress we make in material life is zeroed. Any progress we make in spiritual life, even if you don't achieve perfection in this life, that is carried on to your next life, right? You make 70% progress in this life spiritually, you will start your life with 71%. You won't start from zero. As for your material life, you start with ABCD, right? So similarly, everything you earn is going to be again from zero. Of course, your karma will help you based on what, if you are charitable, you will achieve certain riches in the next life. So all of that is there, but still, the point is, you have everything in this world, but you don't have spiritual consciousness. Everything you have will end with your life, and nothing would be carried on to the next life. So it's simply simple waste of your life, right? Mm. Okay. Let's move on to the next verse. Is that clear? Any questions so far? Anybody has any questions?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I do have a question. Like in life, when you have like pariksha, right? Like decisions that you make, and when you're conflicted, right? Like what do you do in those scenarios? Like you said earlier on in one of the verses that we have to think that none of this is owned by us. This is all from Lord Krishna. So we are his servants. But then there are tough decisions sometimes that you have to make with things that you have, like the money that you have, who you give it to, things like that, right? In such scenarios, like what is a good way to make a decision?
So this is the background of anything you do, right? That I'm not the proprietor, but at
Right.
the same time, everything has to happen in a just way,
Mm-hmm.
in appropriate way. So based on the conditions, I mean, it is. I cannot give an answer based on a imaginary situation, but if
Right.
it's a specific scenario, we can discuss it.
Sure. I do have a specific scenario which keeps coming up in my life. I'm so conflicted about to what to do. So maybe I'll take that separately with you.
Yeah, I think that will be better. Yeah, agree.
Oh, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So this is the background we should have. Means uh, uh, back of mind thinking should be like this. Doesn't mean that we act in a, oh, I don't care kind of an attitude, right? We still have to make sure dharma is followed in everything we do. Yeah, we read this, right? Yeah. Sadrisham chestate swasya प्रकृतेर्ज्ञानवानपि प्रकृतिं यान्ति भूतानि निग्रहा किं करिष्यति. Even okay, can anybody read?
Yeah, I can read Prabhuji. Even a man of knowledge acts according to his own nature, for everyone follows the nature he has acquired from the three modes. What can repression accomplish?
Hmm, is a very important verse. So even a man of knowledge acts according to his own nature. Does it mean, some people take it to the extreme that uh, I killed somebody because that is my nature. No, that is not the nature Krishna is talking about here. Based on guna and karma, everybody is predisposed psychophysically to be like a Sudra or Vaishya or a Kshatriya or a Brahmana. That is the nature. Krishna is not talking about the material desires. Krishna is talking about the material nature of the jiva. So, by having this body, we all have certain psychophysical nature. So, Krishna is talking about psychophysical nature, uh, not the vasanas. There are vasanas. People take vasanas as the nature. No, like to perform certain um, sin, like stealing, or those are not nature. Those are called vasanas. You see the difference? But psychophysically, we are predisposed to a certain kind of work. For example, Arjuna was a kshatriya. His nature is, we'll discuss about a kshatriya nature later, but by his nature, he, his dharma is to protect, to rule and protect the world, right? To rule and praja, not world, praja. He has to give protection to the praja, and that is his psychophysical nature. Means, if you ask Arjuna to go beg, that's not his nature. If somebody does not give arms to somebody like Arjuna, who is a valorous fighter, he would feel offended, and he might take his knife and cut his head, because that's the nature of kshatriya. He's ferocious. He's, you know um, so everybody, all of us have certain nature. Krishna is not denying to act according to our nature. So if that is your nature, if suppose your nature is to be like Vaishya, means you calculate every penny, you don't want to lose any penny, you're very calculative, and to always money minded, that is still okay, because that's your nature. But as long as you act within the precincts of your dharma, that is okay. Do not try to act like somebody else. Arjuna is a kshatriya. Now he wants to act like a brahmana. He wants to give up the fight, go to forest. That is not befitting your psychophysical nature. You will be miserable if you try to become like that. Krishna is saying that. What can repression accomplish? So that's why all of us need to, at a young age, understand what is our psychophysical nature. In India, we see everybody studies engineering or medicine, but later, after studying and getting the degree, they feel, oh, I'm not like an engineer. This is not my nature. My nature is to be like a teacher. So they feel, teacher is more like a mode of goodness. Engineer is more like a mode of passion. Uh, it's dichotomy. They're never satisfied, and then sometimes they'll do a PhD and they become a lecturer later on. They don't naturally fit to be a like a working class engineer. Uh, so like that, all of us have certain innate nature, psychophysical nature, because that is, when you work according to your psychophysical nature, you have an inner satisfaction and external competence. You see, both are there to your support. So externally you're competent, because if somebody has a Vaishya nature, always thinking of how I can increase my business, it is better for him to be engaged in business. He is innately satisfied and externally competent. You see, both are supporting his, and in that consciousness. But at the back of mind, if he adds Krishna as the supreme proprietor, then he will also spiritualize his consciousness. So do not repress your consciousness, Arjuna. You want to become a You want to take sannyas and go to forest and give up your fight. That's not your nature. Psychophysically, you're disposed to fight. Do fight, and that is that is going to give you inner satisfaction. That is where your strengths, your talents are. Arjuna, if you heard about his story, he would not, while all his brothers would be sleeping, he would go out and practice Dhanurveda, means, shooting arrows. He's so passionate about learning Dhanurveda, so much so that he is the world's best archer by the end of student days. That's what he wants to become. He's such a passionate personality. And now Arjuna all of a sudden is saying, "Oh, I'm not going to fight. I'll go to forest." Krishna says that's not your psychophysical nature. If your psychophysical nature is one of a kshatriya, you act for dharma instead. Do not give up your fight. What can recover? So this is a lesson for all of us. If a child is predisposed to creative work, do not force him to make an engineer out of him. They are more towards art. There are always opportunities to flourish in their own areas. And even for us, right? If our nature is certain way and we are working in a certain another way, we will never be satisfied internally. Externally, our competencies will not be leveraged to their best ability. Then naturally, you would do a second rate job. You'll never be the best in your the current area of work that you are performing. This is a very powerful practical instruction Krishna is teaching. So work according to psychophysical nature, thereby you get inner satisfaction, right? So this is acquired through modes of material nature. This is nothing to do with material desires. Material desires that have come because of our past vasanas. You know, like somebody who has a vasana of stealing, or somebody has a vasana of envying, or becoming angry. Those are vasanas. We should get rid of vasanas. Krishna is not talking about repressing such vasanas. Oh, I'm naturally inclined to have, um, yeah. So that's what this lesson is about. Uh, I hope it is clear. Any questions on this? This is a very practical instruction also.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, I just have one question on the example you shared about Vaishyas and the fact that they are in the profession of business.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go back a couple of verses, how would their profession tie in with the knowledge of doing work with the understanding that the sole proprietor is Krishna and they should not work for ownership or profit? Because their entire professional existence is based on ownership and profit of their business.
Oh, okay.
So how do they separate that?
Yeah, okay, that's a very good question. Thank you for asking. So in the past, if you read Bhagavatam, histories of great kings like um, um, Prahlad, or these are all great kings that have lived in the Vedic times. So they were, while they were great kings, even don't go, even go to past, just go to few hundred years back to Shivaji. Shivaji, Maharashtra, he's a great king, right? He was totally, in his mind, he always understood Krishna is the supreme proprietor in all his actions. Even Maharaj Prataprudra, great devotee of the Lord, uh, even though they are ruling the country, their consciousness is always that I'm not the proprietor, God is the supreme proprietor. So all their works were performed with God in mind, right? Their biggest accomplishments were establishments of wonderful temples, um, or the culture. So that's why they were the most renowned kings of the past. And also they achieved perfection at the end of their life, right? So while doing, and the kind of attitude you're talking about Vaishya, it is more prominent in a Kshatriya actually, because Kshatriya feels the proprietorship of everything. He thinks I'm the king of this. It's like in today's world, it's like a president, right? Uh, so they're real, and these people have ruled for their lifetime. They're not rulers for say 5 years or 4 years. They are rulers for the time they live, as long as they can maintain the kingdom, right? But these kings were so exemplary, they were always conscious of God. So it's basically the consciousness that, you know, whatever they do, they always have in mind that they are not the proprietor. Even though they appear, they always treat themselves as trustee of everything. I am responsible and answerable to God for everything I do. So I do everything in a very responsible way. At the same time, I understand God is a proprietor. Just like just like how cashier he deals with money so much, but does he think that he is the owner of that? He doesn't. So similarly, as one understands, I came to this world with nothing. Everything is provided by God, and when I leave, also I take nothing. So he understands that God is the giver, God is the taker of everything also. And without God's help, I cannot achieve anything. So whatever I have, better I understand God is my proprietor. And I act as a true trustee. And in that consciousness, I act. Is that clear, Dinesh? Though? Not clear?
Yes, yes, definitely. Hare Krishna. That was very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. So in the back of mind, you perform your work like any other businessman. Uh, even even in today's world, uh, Ajay Perumal. Anybody heard about Ajay Perumal? He's a billionaire from India. His son is married to Ambani's daughter. He's one of the richest men. But he is a devotee. All of us. He actually chants every single day. But he does great business. He is a billionaire. He has pharmaceutical business, many other businesses. But he is a very simple devotee at heart. Uh, he reads Bhagavad Gita. So you can be like that. You can be the best achiever in this world, just like Arjuna, right? Arjuna was a great fighter. And why is Krishna teaching all this to Arjuna if he cannot follow? Arjuna, even though he's fighter, he's fighting and he's going to become the king. All of that is happening, but still, back of mind, this is his understanding. So it is possible to be God conscious, yeah, while we do, our duties in this world.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I have a question on that verse. Um, Prabhuji, you said like modes of like all of us act in all these different modes, right? Like the passion, ignorance, and goodness. And then we also spoke about vasana. But how do you know what is your innate like vasana? Because we all act in these three modes in different situations.
Correct. Yeah, vasanas are negative things which are like, or feeling of envy, or false prestige, or pride, or or bad habits. They are very different from your original nature. Your original nature is, um, you know, like these based on the varnas, right? Either like kshatriya. Kshatriya means one who has this nature of being the proprietor, uh,
Mm-hmm.
or or to control and rule, right? Even Krishna in later on, he doesn't reject Kshatriya spirit. Kshatriya, he says, balam, where a person actually, the spirit is to be like a proprietor. And Krishna doesn't deny that. He can act, but still understand that ultimately he is not the proprietor. He can act in that proprietorship, but he cannot. He should also understand in the back of his mind that he is not the ultimate proprietor. For the sake of rulership, he has to do that. But so Krishna doesn't deny the nature of the jiva, and it is, it comes with discussion with people who understand this wisdom better, right? So what is my vasanas versus what is my nature, right? If we open up ourselves, our thinking, with a devotee, who has already gone through this path, they can share, oh, is it your vasana or is it your nature? uh, it's it becomes easy with discussions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's confusing sometimes. We may wonder, oh, am I acting rightly or not? So in those situations it's better to take consultation, if you are in doubt.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
So I think we'll end the class here. We'll discuss the next verses in the next class. Any questions? Are also, if you are for here for the first time, can you please introduce your name and what inspired you to join the class, so we all understand? Just a couple of lines about yourself. Anybody who is new here for the first time? Hello, Hare Krishna. Any share? If not, thank you all for attending the class. We'll end the class here. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.